With everything that is happening right now in the world, and particularly in our nation, I talk about how we listen to our bodies. When our bodies are giving us warning signs, oftentimes that is a signal for us to slow down and rest. But how do we know what these warning signs are? Welcome back to another episode. I am your host, Dr. Maisha, and as always, I am so grateful to be able to be with you here for another episode. Oftentimes, when I talk about communication and the brain, and I talk about it in the context of us communicating with others. But what I don't always talk about, and what I think is very important, is how our body and our brain communicates to ourselves. And so I think with everything that is happening right now in the world, and particularly in our nation, I talk about how we listen to our bodies. When our bodies are giving us warning signs, oftentimes that is a signal for us to slow down and rest. But how do we know what these warning signs are? I don't know about you, but in my industry, we were trained to ignore those signals. There's a saying, and I know I've probably said this before in medicine: eat when you can, sleep when you can, pee when you can. And so that sort of go push through over time, that is sending the suggestions that what our body wants doesn't matter. What matters is that we push through and keep it moving. And that's pure survival. In the past, historically speaking, especially in certain cultures, particularly in my cultures, feeling emotions was dangerous. And we didn't have time for that. However, feeling what our body needs and what our brain needs and what our body wants is important for us to be able to create longevity, both in our careers, in our leadership, in our social justice advocacy, like all of these things. We need to be able to listen to and take care of our bodies and take care of our minds and our emotional selves and our spiritual selves so that we can create that longevity and not burn out. So then what does that look like? What are the warning signs that our body is communicating with us? And I could talk about it from the lens of trauma and the survival responses that we often experience. And last week, I noticed for myself that not only was I more agitated and more irritated, like my fuse, my tolerance was shorter, but I also noticed that I was so tired. And that would make sense if I wasn't sleeping well, if I wasn't finding time to rest. We had an extra snow day, so it's not I'm burning the candle at both ends. I took a day off. I did work a full day. I do my normal routine. I get on the yoga mat. I take my son to school. I eat breakfast, lunch, snacks, dinner. I come home, this my normal routine. But yet I was feeling so tired in the middle of the day, early afternoon. By the time it was time to go to bed, I was exhausted. And as I was going through the week, I asked myself, what is going on? Like, why am I so tired? And what I thought about was how much mental, emotional load I was carrying with all of the with all of the chaos and all of the trauma that I'm absorbing indirectly through what I'm consuming in media, through the space that I'm holding for the communities that I work within, for all of that. And I realized that while I have taken do my normal self-care routine, I think that this fatigue was somewhat of a survival response. My body communicating to me that there was something else that I need, some additional care that I needed to take for myself. And I've been talking with a few other of my friends and colleagues who are experiencing similar things. And so it just prompted me to really look at what is happening in our bodies that is causing us to feel this way or experience these things. And it very well could be that all of the things that we're absorbing is scratch that. And so when I began to reflect on what is the underlying cause of my fatigue, what came to me was this was my body's survival response activating in the face of all that's going on. And for me, as I thought about it, I'm not in the direct danger, right? So it's not a direct survival response. I'm not in direct danger. And my limbic system, my brain, my connects with all of that is happening, and I experience that level of empathy, and that impacts my body as well. And so I say all that to say that for us, there are these different survival responses. And I've talked about this over the years that I've been in podcasts, whether it's been this podcast or my previous podcast. When we are exposed to the level of trauma, the level of when we are exposed to the level of harm and injustice and trauma that is happening out in the world, we do not go unaffected. In fact, our body, because we have these mirror neurons in our brain, and because our limbic system, which is the system that connects us to others, is active, when we are constantly watching all of this, our body is responding as if it can relate. It may not be in that direct line of impact, but there's not much of a difference from the brain's perspective. And so it can activate those survival responses. The fight, which is where we get angry, we might get more irritated and agitated, and it causes us to want to go out there and fight. Or that flee response where we want to run. Many people are in the conversation of leaving the country, which is a valid conversation, mind you. And how much of that response in the body that's, man, I need to just get out of here, is a survival response. Then there's this freeze. We're incapacitated almost. What is there to do? We don't even know. It's just like a deer in the headlights. Then there's like that fawn, that people please, that tend to befriend, and what that looks like, right? Just negotiate the situation just to make people happy, or just do whatever we need to do to make people happy. And then there's that fatigue response. And that fatigue response is our body gets so tired that we just want to go to sleep. We want to lay down. We want to take a nap. That brain absorbing all of that activity, the brain actually is responsible for, I think it's 20% of the energy that we burn in our system. And so that's a lot. And so when our brain is processing all of this, our brain is absorbing all of this, it takes a lot of energy. And so it would make sense that we were more tired. It's important to get, what does that feel like in your body? Which of these responses are you noticing in your body? Is it a constant anger? Is it a constant fear? Is it a constant rage? Is it a constant desire to just run and get the heck out of here? Is it like, I don't even know what to do, I'm just not going to do anything? Or not, I'm just going to, I choose to do nothing, but I can't do anything. I'm like frozen, I'm incapacitated. Is it that I just want to go to sleep? And so, what does that feel like in the body? Because oftentimes we feel these things in the body before we can process what's happening in the brain. And when we become aware and we recognize what's going on in the body, we recognize when we become aware, we can begin to reflect on what's underneath that. And what is it that's happening that we can control? Because we can't control everything that's going on in the world. We may be in that fight. We may be that on that journey of social justice, of advocacy. We may be doing all the things. And we may be feeling like we should be out there, if or should be more out there, depending on what industry you're in, what position in an organization you have. But the point is, when you notice, when you recognize, okay, something's going on, then you can begin to reflect, why is that happening? What's going on in the world, in my organization, on my teams, in my family? What's the bigger picture? What's going on behind these responses? What is my body telling me? You can start to reflect on that. What is my body telling me? What emotions are coming up? What are the actual feelings and emotions that I'm feeling? And I think that's really important, to be able to name those emotions. And if you need a feelings wheel, you can always look that up. But it's important to be able to name those emotions, because when we can name it, we can express what's happening with a trusted friend or mentor, colleague, or family member, coach or therapist, right? And when we can name them, it gives us easier access to navigate. What is it that we need to do? What is it, like, once we become aware of the emotions, what is the next action that we need to take? What do we need to acknowledge? How then do we need to adapt what we're currently doing? For example, if you are feeling the anxiety or the fear or the anger or the sadness or the frustration of what's going on in the world, and it's impacting your work, it's impacting your leadership, it's impacting how you interact with your family, your spouse, your children, and you recognize, oh, you know what? I think it's all this scrolling on social media. It's my feed. It's all I see on my feed is this. Then you can begin to adapt what you're doing. If it's you're watching the news, I don't watch the news much anymore, but if you're streaming any of the news channels, if you're watching the news constantly, you might want to look at that behavior and what can you adapt in that behavior. How can you shift? What can you then expose yourself to? Who do you need to connect with that will help to settle the nervous system? From a social media standpoint, I can tell you, because of the work that I do, I'm often exposed to a lot of what's going on in my social media feed. And so sometimes I need to reset my feed a little bit, because it does have an impact. So maybe I do baby videos, or I start to look at a little bit more baby videos, or cooking videos, or yoga videos. Three of my favorite things, right? And when I do that, then I start to notice, okay, I'm smiling more, I'm laughing more. Or maybe I'll watch more comedies when I have my TV breaks in the evening. Or maybe I will call a friend and say, just connect with a friend and just get into what they're doing. And we support one another, helps to settle the nervous system. We say in the world of trauma informedness that connection mitigates trauma. And so connecting with someone, something that helps to redirect the emotion that you're having, the negative emotion that you're having, into something that feels good for the nervous system. And so, how can you adapt your behavior in the moment, over time? If there are practices that you have You may think about what additional practices can you incorporate during those times of activation where you're feeling that addition, where your body is communicating that additional stress. For me, it's a soak, it's a bath soak with essential oils. Or it may be extra cuddle time with my son. We just cuddle and watch funny shows, or play a game of checkers, or play a game of go fish. What is that for you? That different behavior. And then it's just the practice. You have to practice. You have to practice being intentional about listening to your body, practice being intentional about recognizing what behaviors are behind that and leading to that whatever negative experience or emotion that you might be having, and modifying and adapting those behavior and acknowledging and being accountable for your well-being, being accountable for what you can modify in your life in the face of all that is going on around you, so that you can be who you want to be, who you need to be. And sometimes that's something that you can do. You can have that conversations with yourself. But most of the time, that is something that we don't do on our own. It takes community, it takes support. And if there's one thing that when I'm guesting on podcasts, people always ask me, what's the one message that you want to leave with your audience? It is that we do nothing. We should do none of this alone. We should do none of this alone. We need to find who are the people in our lives that we can be vulnerable with, that we can call upon, that we can connect to, that settle our nervous system, that we feel settled around, that we can relax around, that we can cry with and laugh with. Who are those people? And begin to form those lifelines with those people, and maybe regular cadences of connection with those people. Check in on one another. And maybe have an accountability partner. I know I do. To check in with you listening to your body and you making sure that you're putting in the practices that help to bring you back from the space of hopelessness to hope, or from the space of anger and frustration to hope. I'm coming back to hope for a reason, to be able to help you to access joy. Because sometimes you feel like, oh, I shouldn't. It's like you feel guilty about laughter and feel guilty about feeling happy or feeling joy, I should say. And we have to access that joy and those moments of joy, those moments of those bright spots, those moments of hope, because that's what's going to continue to keep us going in our respective spaces, in our respective purposes, in our respective journeys. Whatever role you're in an organization, whatever role you are occupying in a community, however you are as a parent, as a spouse, we need to be able to access those moments of joy and those moments of hope in the midst of everything that's going on. That doesn't mean we're not going to feel what we're feeling. It just means, how do we put the structures in place to be able to feel something different and get ourselves away from the ledge. All right. So if message has been valuable to you, and by the way, if you listen to me, you know by now, I am not about that Pollyanna life. This is about really building resilience to everything that's going on so that we can continue putting one foot in front of the other and continue on the path and not burn out. For some, the answer is to remove ourselves from the situation. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's a completely valid move for our well-being. And in the meantime, in between time, what can we access so that while we're still here, we can thrive? So with that, once again, if you found this valuable, I would very much be appreciative that you let me know in the comments You can write a review on your podcast platform, and you can reach out to me and just let me know what is it that you got from this episode. I also invite you to share this episode. Share it with a friend, share it with a family, share it with a colleague, and maybe even come back to it if you need to, just as a reminder of the structures of what you need to be thinking about as your body is communicating with you. And it may communicate with you through the tension in your muscles. It may communicate with you through a flutter in your chest, through heaviness in your gut, through a lump in your throat. Those, it's like, how do you know that you're hungry? Your body communicates with you in a way. It listen to my invitation for and practice for you is to listen to what are the sensations and feelings that you're feeling in your body. What are the sensations and the feelings that you're feeling in your body? Where do you feel tension? Where do you feel the lumps in your body, or the drops or the sinking feelings? And what is specifically that feeling? What is the emotion associated with that? What is your body telling you that you need to do? You need to slow down and rest. And what are the structures that you can put in place in order to pour back into yourself and re-energize and rejuvenate in the moment? And what kind of regular cadence can you develop? Weekly cadence, daily cadence, bi-weekly cadence, monthly cadence, all of the above, maybe doing different things. What are those things, those structures that you can develop on a daily basis? For me, at morning, it's gratitude list. Mid-afternoon, it's 15 minutes of quiet meditation right after my lunch. So I shorten my lunch so that I can get in meditation. Sometimes when the weather is good, I take a walk outside or I go into the garden. Weekly, it's martial arts to get a little bit of that energy out. I listen to music, read, connect, always connecting with people every single day, every single week. Just keeping those connections open, because because my default is to isolate. So when I don't connect and I start to isolate, that's when my mind starts to ruminate and go, and my body starts to get even more anxious. And so, what are those structures for you? What are those cadences that you can set up for you? What is the communication that your body is giving you? Take this and reflect on it this week and let me know what you come up with. And so, I'm always grateful for you to be here. Without you all as listeners, there is no podcast. Again, if you find this information valuable, if you find it useful, I invite you to subscribe, follow this podcast, and share it with another. And until the next time we see each other, stay empowered.